Today, I want to begin talking about the assignment that you have to have, this individual writing task, which involves text analysis and evaluation. It is a large percentage of your overall mark. So I think it's important that we begin the process of thinking about what you're going to be doing. If you've taken a look at Canvas, a few things I hope that you pay attention to. One is, because we are talking about rhetorical structure theory today and next week, it would be a very good idea for you to have this at least downloaded to your computer so you can easily take a look at it or print it out. It will be very useful to you. So please pay attention to that. It goes through defining the various relations, and I hope that you pay attention to that, because you really cannot talk about rhetorical structure theory without looking at how the relations are defined. There is also a folder called Assignment in Canvas, all right? So go to that, and you'll find in it that there are 50 sample essays. These are IELTS Task 2 questions and answers. They're model answers. These model answers are supposed to be band 9 level. All right, so I've downloaded this set of essays. For example, here, text 30 is sample. Again, it's writing task 2. I don't know if any of you perhaps have had experience with IELTS before, so you would know what task 2 is. Now, this is the kind of text that I want you to analyze. What I did was to assign you one of these texts. In order to make it sort of random, I downloaded this randomizer and entered in 24. That's the number of students in the class. I got back a random list. So for each of you, I have assigned one of the texts. You should see your name up there. You'll get the PowerPoint, so don't worry, all right? And you can look at that later to know which one it is you have. And you can take a look at what those essays are. You can look them up, and that will be the one that you will be analyzing. All right. Now, what does it mean that you are going to analyze the text? Have you all written down the number at least of your text? Okay, I'm sure you did. Now, this is how I want to proceed. There are 4 steps to the analysis that we've been carrying out. A clause-based analysis, because you just have the text. It's not broken up into clauses. That is the first task. Now, there are 4 tasks here. Together, it counts as 20%. The analysis in terms of clause-based analysis, theme analysis, transitivity, and logical. 4 tasks. Basically, you might think of it as 5 points each. I have given sort of a deadline for when the analysis is to be done, because I want you not to wait until the very last week and then start your analysis. So I'm going to force you to do your analysis in a progressive manner, all right? Now, you'll notice that the first one, the clause-based analysis, is in week 8. Now, you might say, why is that so much sooner? It's because I want you to hand it in to me, and I want to go through it. Because if your clause-based analysis is faulty, well, then your whole following analyses will also be faulty, right? So this will be a way for me to go through and look at, make sure that you're on the right track in terms of your analysis, in terms of breaking it up in clauses. Well, that will be due then in week 8. That's still quite a ways away. That's the 15th of March. The others more toward the end of the term, weeks 11, 12, and 13. Now, we've been doing that kind of analysis, so I think you know what's involved and what you'll need to be doing. Now, that counts as 20%, the analysis. Another 20% is your commentary. But what is the commentary? The commentary is where you are taking your data, because what I believe you get with your analysis is data. Data about what kind of processes are used and who is doing what to whom, all right? And what is theme? What is typically is it more parentactic? Is it more hypotactic? Okay, so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking this and looking at how that is how it is realized in the IELTS model answer that you're analyzing. So it should give you a good idea of what goes into an IELTS model answer, supposedly band 9 level. How is it formed? Do you see any patterns emerge out of that? What would you say is sort of the kind of structure that is being used there? And most likely, in doing this commentary, you'll also want to extend your discussion of the text analysis in terms of theme and transitivity and logical to what is the architecture of that text. And that's where we come today to talking about rhetorical structure theory. So my advice to you is find the text that you're going to, it's there on Canvas. Find the text that you're going to be working on, read it, begin thinking about it. How does it break down into clauses? If you finish the clause-based analysis sooner, by all means, feel free to send it to me and I'll go through and look at it. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to set a deadline. But if in the meantime you're really wanting to get going and finish this up, then by all means, if you want to do it sooner than week 8, you can feel free to do so. Yes.
Mark on the first drop on the second.
The first. All right. Your clause-based analysis, what you give me the first time, all right, that's it. That's what I'll mark. Then with the corrected one, hopefully you'll do better with the rest, all right? In other words, do your best with all of them, all right? But whatever you give me, that's what I'm going to assess, okay? Thank you for erasing that so it's clear. Thank you. All right, and the commentary, well, that's really quite a ways away, all right? That's at the end of the semester. What's rhetorical structure theory? We've already discussed this, and I've been discussing rhetorical structure theory. So I want to go back and review a bit about what we've said it is, what's entailed. There are certain underlying assumptions of rhetorical structure theory. Text consists of functionally significant text spans. What is a functionally significant text span? We've already been talking about that, and we've said that a property of a functionally significant text span is that it is cohesive. It exhibits a cohesiveness. that you can then see something of a unity in terms of the patterning. Patterning of what? Choices that are made with respect to transitivity, theme, logical analysis. But not just that. It also would include kind of lexical cohesion as well. Do you see the same word continue to be reoccurring throughout the text? What do you see as cohesive about it? The use of conjunctions is another element of cohesiveness. We've discussed that before. So a functionally significant span of text should exhibit a cohesiveness. When we talk about a functionally significant span of text, we're talking about how they come together, how they are pieced together. And the idea is that each part contributes to what is the writer's goal. What is the writer's purpose? What does the writer want to accomplish? There is a goal. And what that goal is going to be what each of those parts is going to contribute to. There's an intention that the writer has some conscious intention achieving specific goals with the message. So it all ties together. That's what you're saying about a text. We're going to see it in terms of a hierarchy. Smaller, elementary parts combined together to form larger parts. Is a clause a functionally significant span of text? Yes, it is. But it doesn't just stop at the clause level. We can combine clauses to make a sentence. That would be a functionally significant span. We can combine sentences into a paragraph. That would be a functionally significant span. So the idea of a functionally significant span, they are varying in size. And what there's going to be this combination of them is what is contributing to the text as a whole. So smaller into larger, all the way up to the text as a whole. So where's the top? The text as a whole. Where's the bottom? The clauses. The clauses that make up the text. Each of those parts is somehow related one to the other. And this is where rhetorical structure theory shines. It takes the hierarchical structure, these functionally significant spans of text, and looks at how they are related. So we need to define what these relations are. And what is suggested is that this is a finite set. It's not infinite. There are not infinite possibilities for how you can relate the various functionally significant spans together. There's a finite set, and they can be defined. Well, the definitions are there in rhetorical structure theory. Well, we've already seen that you can have parataxis and hypotaxis. And all that we're saying here is that the relations between these spans of text may be hypotactic, asymmetrical. And certain relations are by their very nature asymmetrical. Concession is one, where you're saying, although John went to the store, he came back with nothing. Now, we know that already, that the sense of concession, you're conceding, although he went to the store, he was at the store, that's true, but he came back with nothing. And that's the point you're making. But it is a asymmetrical relationship. There is one sort of main idea here. He came back with nothing. And so the relations break down into some that are asymmetrical and some that are symmetrical. And in the definitions that you have, you can see that they are grouped together, some as asymmetrical, evidence, justify, antithesis or antithesis, however you want to say it, concession, circumstance, and so on. Symmetrical relations, contrast, sequence, and this isn't a complete list by any means. I gave you this example before, and I gave you this example because I wanted to illustrate the fact that the sense of hierarchy. So we introduce it and we elaborate on it with 3 points: first, secondly, and in addition. So we indicate those elaborating points, the paragraph 2, 3, and 4. And what we're saying is that, as we indicated before, there'd be a relationship of elaboration. The main part, the core part, is described as the nucleus. The rest are the satellites. The main idea of rhetorical structure theory is if you take all the satellites away, you still know what is the main idea of the text. That presented an interesting possibility. If you could take text and identify in rhetorical structure theory, the analysis, the schema we call it, and you can identify the nuclear parts, take away the satellites, and you have basically the core of the text. Now, the definitions of these relations. As we've said before, the relations are semantic, not syntactic. In this case, now there are different possibilities for elaborating. The satellite presents additional detail, members of a set, the instances of some abstract concept, the specifics of some generalization, which fits very well here with what we were talking about. What she wasn't happy, the writer, what she wasn't happy about. But this is an important element, the effect, because what it is when you are looking at the purpose. What is the purpose? What is the effect that you want to have on your reader or your listener? That is the idea of the rhetoric, the argument. What is it that you are trying to convince your reader of? And this is then the effect. You want to present additional detail. And you want the reader to recognize that fact. You're giving additional detail to support your point. We took apart the first part. We said, though I found Megan's column informative and topical, a few aspects troubled me. And here again, we said that this is a relation of concession. Well, it's obvious from the word although, the word though. But how do you decide that this is the satellite and this is the nucleus? You have to go to the definition of the relation. And when you do, this is what you're told. The nucleus. The writer has positive regard for the situation presented in the nucleus. This is the main point. This is what the writer is trying to convince you of. The reader's positive regard for the situation presented in the nucleus is increased. This is the goal. That's why I say you have to look at the definitions of the relation when you identify the rhetorical structure of a text. Because there you identify what is the nucleus, what are the satellites. It isn't just anyhow what you are thinking, all right? Writer has positive regard for the situation presented in the nucleus. And I could ask you, how do you know? How do you know? Though I found Megan's column informative and topical, a few aspects troubled me. The definition of this relation, like all the definitions, is based on the interpretation. It is about the interpretation that you, as the analyst, bring to the text. what you supposed to be the writer's purpose, what you supposed to be the writer's intended outcome. In this sense, you could argue it is subjective. It is your interpretation. My point to argue back to you would be that, in fact, when you're looking at this, it isn't just the interpretation. There are grammatical clues put there in the text that inform you, the reader, inform you, the analyst, what the nature of that relation is. We took apart this as well. We noticed that, in fact, there was sort of, in an argument very often, and you'll see this in more of the text you're looking at, you present two ideas. You contrast two ideas. You give a contrasting point of view. In IELTS, the task 2, this is an important part of it, all right? To give sort of the contrasting view. You'll likely then run into this relation where you are talking about not just a simple contrast, not two ideas that, yes, they're in contrast, but one is favored over the other. You'll notice that the definition here is very much like what we saw for concession, right? This is about the rhetorical structure, the argument that is being made. And what we see is that these relations are very much based on what is the writer trying to convey to you, convince you of. And it figures here in concession, that will be the nucleus. And here in antithesis, likely also the nucleus. That is what the writer is trying to convince you of. The rest we saw, elaboration, 3 and 4. So what we're saying is that these two sentences, job seekers should under no circumstances, drastically understating her point, job seekers should under no circumstances put their Hong Kong ID or whatever ID number on their job application. That was the rest of it, all right? To do so is to invite identity. To do so is basically a substitution. Remember that is one of those in cohesion. One of the aspects of cohesion is substitution. Well, in this case, to do so, this 3 and 4, they are related. So 3 and 4, where we put them together like this, we're saying that that is a functionally significant span. Each of these lines, 2 through 4, is what? It's the antithesis of what was expressed in 1, what Megan says. And here what you're saying is the writer's point of view about that. And this is what the writer is trying to convince you of. So 2 through 4 is one functionally significant span. And within that, 2 is elaborated by 3 and 4. So each of these horizontal lines represents a functionally significant span in the text. I gave you this example also before. We will get through some examples you haven't had, don't worry. But I thought we'll review these in any case. No one can quibble with the government decision to classify films according to their content. You have it in your hand, all right, the text itself. Did everyone have a copy? Some of you came in a bit later. No. All right. How is this put together? This is an editorial, so definitely there is a purpose here. No one can quibble with the government decision to classify films according to their content. This has allowed censors to restrict the most violent and sexually explicit scenes. The creation of 3 categories of films is necessary and is in step with the established trend in many Western societies, but, oh, that little word, but. What is not palatable in the recently gazetted film censorship bill is the government's insistence of a ban against politically provocative presentations. So we begin. No one can quibble with the government decision to classify films according to their content. I've highlighted what we call the focus. Okay? We've said that the focus is really the new information. It is there more likely there at the end of the clause. What goes at the beginning? Theme, we said, right? What you want to talk about. What is known already. What's been given. This is the new information. The government decision to classify films according to their content. And then what follows? This has allowed censors. What do you call that? In terms of theme. What do you call it? Where what you had was the focus, and now it becomes the beginning of the next clause. What do you call that? Anybody going to be brave and tell me? Kind of thematic progression, right? What do you call it? Oh, come on. You didn't lose everything over the Chinese New Year holiday, right? Yes, so linear. Yes, linear, thematic progression. The focus becomes the theme. The new becomes the old. And how do you know it's the old? This, well, you are referencing back to what was said. The new becomes the old. And then 3, the creation of 3 categories of films is necessary. And 3B, that is ellipted. And what is this? Creation of 3 categories of films. Well, that goes back to the same thing, the classify films according to their content. And so what we have 2 is referring back to what was the focus here. Theme in 3A, the creation of 3 categories of films. Ellipted here, but it's the same. And what happens when you have the same theme being repeated? It's continuous thematic progression. You keep repeating the same thing. Now, when you have continuous thematic progression, very likely you have a functionally significant span in the text. You maintain the same idea throughout, and that continuity contributes to forming a functionally significant span. So we can say 1 through 3, all of this has been joined together by, first of all, linear thematic progression between 1 and 2, and 2 and 3, continuous thematic progression. That same theme is what is keeping this all together. And how do you know then that it is related to what follows with conception? The obvious, but. Two and 3 basically are justifying the point that was made in 1. No one can quibble. Why can no one quibble? Basically 2 points. In a joint, you have joint is symmetrical. You have 2 basic ideas here. One is that to restrict the most violent, sexually explicit scenes, 1. And the other is that it is done in many Western societies, 2. All right, so those are 2 arguments that are given to justify what was being said over here in 1. Let me see, I think I have. This other part here that begins in 4. What is not palatable? In the recently gazetted film censorship bill. What is this? Grammatically, what is it? It's the grammatical subject, right? This whole thing is basically a clause, however. You do have a verb, is. And so this whole thing, this whole clause begins with a WH word, what? And what is the verb that follows? Is. And what is is? Is almost like an equal sign. Do you remember what I said about this before? What is it called? It's called a thematic equative. A thematic equative. The grammatical subject is a clause. It is a WH clause. That WH clause. Subject is theme, followed by the verb to be, is, and what are you saying? In this thematic equative, you're equating that and you're saying this and this alone. Exclusively this. You see, that's another compelling reason then for me to say that 4 is the nucleus. First of all, it has this idea of a thematic equative, which itself is evidence. It is already, what should I say? It is the writer already telling you this alone. This is what is not acceptable. Almost like shouting at you, all right? But doing it grammatically, all right? What do you call that? A thematic equative. Very important to the points that we've been talking about is we've been saying you have hypotaxis and you have parataxis. We've been talking about it at clause level. But what I'm trying to show you is that this whole idea of hypotaxis, parataxis, it occurs between functionally significant spans. Now, those functionally significant spans can be clauses. They can also be much more. They can be combinations of clauses. Combined, how? Combined through some use of cohesion to bring them together, to tie them together. So it's very closely related to what Halliday was talking about, logical. And remember, Halliday talked about one clause can elaborate, exemplification, clarification, restatement. It can extend, adding some new element, giving an exception, offering an alternative. You see, these words, exemplification, clarification, restatement, some new element, giving an exception, offering an alternative, embellishment, qualification. These are very similar to rhetorical structure theory relations. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the same kind of logical formation that we see between clauses exists throughout the text between functionally significant spans, which can be at clause level can be throughout that hierarchical structure of the text. All right. Let's get to the text that I want to, the first one I want to analyze today. We're going to be looking at 3 texts today. And after we have gone through this part here, today what I'm going to give you is a mock text. This is exactly like what you can expect on the exam. So I'm going to give you a mock test today. I'm going to ask you to work on it, and then we're going to talk about it. And so we're going to do this week and another next week. So you will have quite good practice and know what you can expect when you come to do the exam at the end of the term. All right. That'll be one thing that we'll be doing, but we're going to first continue our discussion of rhetorical structure theory. Can I ask you to take a moment to read this text? It'd be much more helpful if you actually read it. And that's why I printed it out for you, so it's not so difficult to read on the screen. All right. Take a look at it now.